Welcome, welcome, welcome. Same script, different cast, Cuts Act 1. Cuts Act 1 is an extension of the SSDC podcast, which I typically do with Wikipedia Plot Reader and Movie Pop-Up. This is Seen It, and I'm about to go see the newest iteration of The Grudge, but before I do that, I'd like to just go over the first 3 movies. So from the first movie, Bill Pullman commits suicide by jumping off his balcony after he learns of the woman, Kayako, who was actually a student of his who had a huge crush on him. She dies. Kayako, she was killed by her husband because he found love journals for Bill. The husband cracked Kayako's neck, getting the sound from her when he strangled her to crack her neck, and broke her ankle, which explains why she crawls when she attacks her victims. The husband also drowned their son and killed the cat. So side note, between Grudge 1, 2, and 3, it's revealed that Kayako was fed spirits by her mom, who was some sort of a seancer or something. And so when people would come to get rid of evil spirits, she would just put them into her daughter. And while this was happening, her little sister, who isn't revealed until the 3rd Grudge, would watch. Okay, so back to the first Grudge. So the house where Kayako, her son, and the cat were killed, there's a white couple that moves in with their mom. So the Grudge spirits, they're already there. They kill the husband and the wife, leaving the mom there. The husband's sister, she visits the house at some point, and she's followed by the little boy and Kayako, and she's killed in her apartment building. The mom is still alive. No one knows where her son and the son and her daughter-in-law. We'll just say that's the relationship. So they're not there, but she needs to be taken care of because she has dementia. Initially, Yoko is sent from the caretaker center to watch them. She doesn't return because she's dead. They send Sarah Michelle Gellar to the home to take care of the woman with dementia. So after she goes there, takes care of the mom.
Who are you talking to? I just want her to leave me alone. You need to get some rest.
So appearing from the ceiling, her hair grows long in the corner. She takes the mom, shocks the mess out of Sarah. Also that day, right before that happens, Sarah runs into the little boy in the closet. She takes off all the masking tape from one of the closets. She sees the little boy and the cat. She's startled. Somehow, I guess Sarah calls the police because the next thing you know, the cops are there. They find that the dementia mom, she's dead. They also find the couple in the attic, the son and the daughter, or the husband and wife couple, along with the jaw. But whose jaw is it? So the caretaker manager, he also comes to the house to find out what's going on. And we find out later that the jaw is Yoko's. And when the caretaker manager goes back to the office, he's killed by Yoko. So now we know that the spirits haunt the house. They also haunt the cops that came into the house, and they're haunting Sarah. So throughout this movie, all the cops end up dying. Even the main cop, the detective, he tries to burn down the house. It doesn't work. He dies. Sarah tells her boyfriend everything that's going on with these weird things that are going on in the house and that these spirits are following her. She's seeing these spirits everywhere. He gets attacked by the spirit. He dies. Sarah tries to also burn down the house. That didn't work. She fails. She ends up going to the hospital. She lives. Grudge 2. Sarah's in the hospital. Her sister Aubrey comes to visit her in Japan, tells her sister about the house, tells her don't go to the house. And Kayako, during this time, she's still following Sarah. Sarah is, she's held down by some sort of restraints from the orderlies. Somehow she's able to get herself out of it. She's running from the Grudge spirits. She ends up jumping off of the roof of the hospital and lands right in front of her sister Aubrey and her reporter friend Isan. Aubrey still ends up going to the house and gets her neck snapped, just like Kayako. In this movie, the reporter guy, Isan, he dies too. Years later, there are 3 teenage girls who break into the house, which is still kind of scorched, and it's on a dare. The one girl, Allison, she's locked in the closet by the other 2 girls. She encounters Aubrey's ghost, and then the girls all escape. That grudge curse gets the first two girls, leaving Allison. Allison is haunted by the ghosts of her friends, and she goes back to Chicago, where she stays with her parents, taking the grudge's spirits with her. We're also introduced to a new family called the Kimballs, who move into the same apartment building in Chicago. There's a young boy named Jake who feels like he's disturbed by the presence in the building brought by the hooded stranger who comes into the building and covers up the windows with the newspaper. And we find out at the end, the hooded person is Allison. So Jake's father, Bill, and stepmother, Trish, are influenced by the grudge's curse. Bill accusing his wife of having an affair, but she bludgeons him with a frying pan. Jake and his sister, Lacey, return from school and find that Jake's family is all dead. He runs into Allison. She tells him about the curse. Kayako appears inside of Alice's hood and takes her. And then she comes to attack Jake, but then we see Jake still lives. In the next one, he ends up being in an insane asylum in Grudge 3. But then in the beginning of the movie, the grudge spirit takes him, and this is all witnessed on security cameras. I mentioned earlier in the first part of discussing the first grudge that Kayako had a sister. Her sister's name was Noko. So she hears about everything that's happening in Chicago and thinks, hey, that could be my sister. And then she travels to Chicago, and she comes out of nowhere. So the third grudge, she has a sister. This was not brought up, and nobody did their research. And I know they had not Bing, what was it? I know they had AOL Online or Black Planet. I don't know. They could have did some more research and found out that this Kayako had a sister. So she's there in the third one. She goes to the apartment building because it's pretty much the spirits have taken over some of the residents there. Noko performs some sort of ceremony and asks two children to drink the blood of Kyato. Where she gets the blood of her sister, who knows? Maybe she's harvested the blood. I have no idea. Noko is attacked by a possessed resident. The little girl, whose name is Rose, drinks the blood and becomes possessed by Kyato. And Noko's ghost resurrects and kills the resident who was no longer possessed, because once the blood was drinking, the ghost was gone, because now the ghost is inhabited into the little girl. Those are the first three grudges. Let's see what this new grudge will bring. I'm excited to see it. I like John Cho. Well, I just came back from seeing The Grudge, and I did enjoy it. I would give it a B. This movie was directed by Nicholas Pence. He's actually a young director born in 1990. And now I want to see other movies that he's directed or been a part of as far as writing the story or anything else that he's done. And he did The Eyes of My Mother and Piercing. So those are definitely movies that I want to check out. This movie, it had a pretty good score. So I looked up who did that, and it was scored by the Newton brothers. I'm not very familiar with them, but they did The House on Haunting Hill, which fits the vibe of this movie. And also did Dr. Sleep, which is one of my top 3 movies of 2019. One of the reasons why I even give this movie a B in reference to the other Grudge movies, you get to know each character. And I feel like because of that, it's not just a body count. I understood the love that different characters had for one another, their relationship, the way that they thought, their feelings. You really got to know the character. Now, going into this, I did like how the curse was explored through the eyes of a detective that's in this town. She gets onto a case which ties into another case, and so as everything is unfolding with everything that happens in a particular house, we learn it through the eyes of the detective. So going in, and as a viewer and a watcher of the previous movies, I mean, we understand that everyone that enters the house will die, that has this curse, this grudge curse with it. So I knew that going in, so I knew what to expect. And there's even a note at the beginning of the movie that talks about that same saying about, when there's rage or something when a person dies in a certain way. I like that you saw the curse through the eyes of the caretaker, because that's what we see at the beginning of the movie, which ties into the other Grudge movies. We have the caretaker in Japan. I don't like the feeling of this house, and she comes back to the States. Now, that's similar into The Grudge 2, how that person, the young lady, one of those girls, comes to Chicago. So this caretaker's like, I'm not feeling it here. I'm just going to go ahead and come home. And then we see it from the eye from the real estate agent of that same caretaker's home, who sells it and what they go through with it. And then you see it from the new homeowners who buy it from the real estate agent, Now, because of how things transpired, I don't think that, well, actually none of the people who are in the house ever seem to have come in contact with each other. I can say the real estate agent didn't meet the new owners because, spoiler, I mean, they went into the house, so they died. And the same thing with the new owners, the older couple who actually purchased the house, knowing that someone died in that, so that they could be closer to a hospital for reasons and for treatment. And they knew that going in, and they died. So everyone dies. I mean, that is how it is when you go to the Grudge. I mean, you enter the house, you're gone. What it also does is, in similar fashion to, I think, to The Grudge 2, it cuts back and forth to 2005, 2004, and 2006. Except I don't remember if in The Grudge 2 it gave you the years. I think it was trying to run like it was happening at the same time, The Grudge 2. Because they tried to make it a mystery about the one girl, Allison, going back to Chicago because it was supposed to be a big reveal like, oh, the person in the hood, it was Allison this whole time. Yeah. The movie also pays homage to, I guess, The Grudge 3 in that it ties in an insane asylum as someone who has, as a detective who was working the case and started having these visions, and he's just so into the case, and then he's put into an asylum to help him with his visions. So the main premise of the movie, to reiterate, is there's a new detective that comes into this town in Pennsylvania, and she's in this new precinct. She's paired up with a partner. It's the same gentleman. He was in The Nun. He's been in a couple Conjuring movies, and that's her new partner. We learn that with this incident that occurred at this house, it's 44 Rayburn, when the family was killed. It was the murder-suicide, the mother who came back from Japan. She killed her family members and then killed herself. The same caretaker. He never went into the house. And he said it was just something about the vibe of the house, but his partner did. And that's the person who ended up in the insane asylum. So what they do is on her first day, there's a car accident and the body is old, maybe a few months. That's when the other case is brought up. We know that the person in the car was someone who assists with persons who want to die, like Dr. Kevorkian. They know the address where she was, which is 44 Rayburn, and that's when it ties into, oh my gosh, well, what happened at that house? What happened with the Landers? And that's what this new detective is asking. And then that's when the guy tells her everything that happened, what happened. He didn't really go into what happened with his partner. She eventually finds that out when she does all of the research. So this movie reminds me of an anthology or a short story, because not only are you going through what happened with each year, how the caretaker came into the home, how a real estate agent, what he was going through with trying to have a baby with his wife, and what just going on in their lives, and then with this older couple who are just, living out the last of their years together, and they've been together for 50 years, and you see the love that they have for one another. So you see the characters' motivations. You're getting to know these people, and they make good choices. They make rational choices when they see these ghosts, and they're just like, what is that? And they freak out, as you would, and they don't just like brush anything off. Because I feel like Sarah Michelle Gellar, she's seeing the cat and the boy in the closet, and she's like, wow. And the hair coming down from off the ceiling, wow. These people were genuinely afraid and frightened, and you saw this. And then you feel for them because you know their backstory, and you see the relationship that they have with other people, and other people are looking at them like, what the hell is wrong with you? So I definitely did enjoy this movie. One thing to point out, even the precinct was, the address was 999 as opposed to 666. I did mention the music earlier. To me, it's similar to the Walking Dead game, the one with Lee and Clementine. That's what it reminded me of. And the directing reminded me of Mike Flanagan, which makes sense. I mean, you have the score from the guys who did the House on Haunting Hill. Throughout the movie, you see these ghosts that are just popping up, and you're not given any type of sound bite to prompt you to look at a certain place. These ghosts are just I wouldn't say in the mist, but they're in the background. You don't see, it's not pronounced to look at these ghosts. If you're not looking at the right place, you might miss them. So I did like that. But there are jump scares, but compared to the other Grudge movies, not as much. So because of that, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. So I'm pleasantly surprised to have a enjoyable horror movie at the beginning of January. And I believe it was also PG-13. Did not see a ton of CGI. I feel like this director used mostly practical effects, which is great. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. Cut to Act 1. This is my review. Seen It of The Grudge. Check it out if you can. I was pleasantly surprised. All right, see ya.
I think they